Welcome back to Sam and Ham. This is Sam.
And this is Ham.
But today we're going to be doing another D&D monster review.
Yep. And today it looks like we're doing CR 1/4.
Yeah, that's what I decided. So this is something that I put together that I just pull you over and say, hey, we're going to talk about these random beasts. And we judge them based on 3 categories.
DM tactics.
Player appeal.
And lore.
If you haven't had a chance, you could check out our CR 1/8 video. It should be up by the time we're recording this, so...
It was a blast.
It was a blast. You enjoyed it?
I did.
Good to know. So we're going to go ahead and do it again, this time with CR 1/4 or 1/4.
Yep.
I'm going to pull up a dice roller. We're going to roll the dice and pick 5 at the dice's will and review them based on those 3 categories, give them a rating, and then rank them 1 to 5 based on this random sampling.
Just like D&D, the dice rules are life. Let's go.
And 8. 8 from the top is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Apprentice Wizard. Alright, let's go ahead and roll that again. 16 from the Apprentice Wizard. We're actually going to get, further down in the alphabet this time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The Darrow.
I don't even know what that is.
We're going to find out.
We learn every day.
5 down from the Darrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the Drow.
Oh, cool.
Good.
One of my top 3 favorite elves. Really, they're just great.
Top 3, that's good to know. And then that's the 3rd one. So 4th one's gonna be 6 from the Drow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Flying Shield.
A flying shield. I did not know they made those.
Apparently that's a thing, along with Flying Staff, Sword, Trident. Alright, we have one more.
One more.
13 from the Shield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 is Giant Wolf Spider.
I like the Giant Wolf Spider.
Alright, I feel like we got a pretty good idea of some creatures here, and let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so our first up is the Apprentice Wizard.
Right.
So, cute kid.
Good kid.
He's working hard, man. He might find a sword in a stone one day.
I'd believe it.
Alright, so he's got an AC of 10, so I'm assuming he doesn't wear armor.
And doesn't look like he casts mage armor either.
He also has hit points of 9. Basic stats there, 0 except for intel, all the way across.
Yeah.
He does know Arcana history and any one language, usually common. So he doesn't really have that many skills out of combat.
No.
He does have spellcasting, though. He can do 1st level spellcasting.
Yeah, no, that's what he's here for.
Yeah, his ability is... Oh, so it's telling us that his DC save for his spells is 12. Mm-hmm. He has +4 to hit with any spell attack.
Yeah.
And he has Firebolt, Mending, that big word I can never say.
Prestidigitation.
That's pretty good out-of-combat spell.
That one is.
Burning Hands, Disguise Self, and Shield.
Okay.
If forced to be in melee, he has a dagger.
You imagine this little kid coming up. To be fair, though, commoners have 4 hit points, so if he gets lucky, take him out in 1 hit.
Checking into some info here, it says apprentices are just the novice spellcaster.
So, from the DM tactics, my first couple of thoughts here are, 1, you can do a lot worse. His +4 to hit is average-ish against a level 1 party. He's probably not going to hit every time. Even your level 1 PCs are going to have probably a 15 AC. 15, 16, so he's hitting less than half the time. But Burning Hands can actually come in pretty clutch. I really appreciate low-level monsters that don't just swing. They don't just roll the dice and the DM tells you whether or not you hit, especially with new players, which, again, if you're starting at level 1, it's probably a new player. Burning Hands gives you a good opportunity to teach them how saving throws work. Especially, even when you save, you still take half damage. And at level 1, 3d6, even half, can be pretty scary. Plus, combined on the fact that he has Disguise Self, he has Shield, so, even when the fighter goes to, clearly chop this kid in half because he's got 10 AC, the shield comes up and is surprising. So, I'd say this guy, I'd give him a 7, honestly. For this low level, I'm giving him a 7.
Cool. For player appeal, I'm kind of along the same lines of you. Just looking at him all by himself or herself, don't judge.
Yeah.
Finding this apprentice, I'm seeing an NPC that can follow us around for a bit. If we can befriend this person, I definitely think we're gonna have an NPC here for a while.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
I can also see the DM side of that, of throwing a couple apprentices here with a wizard at low-level players just to make it a bit more challenging.
Yeah, I can totally see, because it does say any race, so if you really wanted to, this could be a hobgoblin to, follow up with some other goblins.
Yeah, you're not wrong, or any alignment, meaning good or bad.
Yeah. Especially, again, with this guy's self, he could be a hobgoblin pretending to be a human, and then he gets a jump on everybody.
For NPC party member factor, I'm going to have to give him a 7 as well. It's always good to have an extra body.
Do we always just start off strong in these videos?
I don't know. I do like the apprentice idea. Again, just a
pretty cool
guy that just needs someone to guide him in the right way. Definitely not the wizard that he was training under. No, totally somebody in the party.
So for lore, this is another one of those, like the guard, where it's like, how much lore does he have? I don't know. It depends on how the DM uses him. He's very generic. I don't think there's really much here. I mean, there is the spellcasting bit, so at least he has to have some kind of formal training.
Yeah, I would have to say 4, just because as the apprentice, he's going to have some sort of backstory.
Yeah.
But it's going to be pretty generic. Yeah.
I'm with you. I think a 4 is a good choice.
Yeah, 4.
So let's move on to the Darrow.
The Darrow. Let's learn what this beauty boy is. It is a humanoid.
It's from... What is MTF?
I have no idea.
It's from, Mordecaine's Tome of Foes.
Oh, well, that's something I learned today, and he looks like, a handsome lad.
Yeah, he wears leather armor, and it looks like his face is made out of leather, too.
Alright, so he has that leather armor, 13 AC, 13 hit points, 30 speed, and it looks like he's very dexterous. Dexterous? I'm loving the 5, -3 wisdom, though. He is not a smart lad.
No.
I forget, what's the rule of thumb on intelligence and wisdom for being able to speak? Is that
if you have less than 3, you are basically not sapient.
Okay, so he's just got enough to be...
Yeah, he's technically a sentient being.
Cool.
Pushing it.
Pushing it. He's very stealthy with that +4 stealth. Does have dark vision. Not very passive perception, though. He does know Dwarvish and Undercommon. Okay, so he's definitely an underground creature. Is that what I'm picking up on?
That's what I would assume, but we'll have to find out in the lore.
Definitely has magic resistance, so sorcerer beware.
Yeah.
Sunlight sensitivity, though, so he doesn't like being out in the sun.
But like you said, if he's an underground creature, I don't think that's going to come up all that often.
No, probably not. He does have a hook spear, a light crossbow, and he's found in the mountains or the Underdark. Alright, I'm going to check out his info here.
Ooh, he's got a lot.
Mad as hatters, every one of them. No Darrow has ever been sane, but neither is every form of madness a hindrance. Checking out their lore here real quick, they definitely like to stay underground is what I'm seeing. They like to prey on weaker things.
Yeah, according to their lore, they're actually, they have...
Their wild hair, they're haggard, shuddering, and shabbily dressed.
Yeah, and according to their lore, they're kind of like a dwarf, but kind of not. It sounds like they basically got separated a long time ago and kind of evolved into their own little kind of crazy dwarf species. And it says one of the main reasons that they're still alive is because of their resistance to magic, which we saw in their stat block.
Yeah, definitely looks like madness and sorcery is a thing right there. They have an affinity of being magical despite the fact that they're insane.
Yeah, alright. So we'll get back to the lore here in just a second. Let's talk about the DM tactics first.
Alright, DM tactics. What are we thinking?
I think these guys look pretty darn neat. So, on one hand, the sunlight sensitivity I'm basically going to rule out because you're not fighting one of these guys in the sunlight. They're not going to be out there. Why? Doesn't even matter. It's there. It's there for more fluff than anything. The magic resistance can be really cool. You know, again, if you have like a low-level spellcaster, this might be the first time he's seen something like that. So again, this could be a good way to introduce that mechanic to a newer player. What I really like is that hooked spear. This one's going to be good for, like, the fighter. These guys, I know we usually talk about it, like, as a lone monster. But again, if you're fighting these in a group, The first one runs up, knocks the fighter prone, and then all the other ones have advantage on any follow-up attacks. Plus the fact that they have a backup weapon in that light crossbow, I think these guys can be pretty darn scary in the right situation.
You're not wrong. Deferring back over to that lore, I think it did say alone Darrow is pitiable creature, but when it's, but when there's a horde of them, that's pretty scary.
I can definitely see that. So I'm going to give these guys probably a 6.
A 6?
I think a 6. Because they're not the scariest. I mean, they're only doing a d6 of damage with that spear, and the bow is slightly more scary, but yeah, I think they've got some cool tools, but you can do better.
For player appeal, finding this thing in a cave, so a low-level player going down into a dwarvish cave for some odd reason. I don't know if we all started out as dwarves. But finding one of these things, or all of these things, they sound insane and terrifying. I'm going to give it an 8.
8? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. For lore, I think they're pretty cool. I think I'd give them a 7.
A 7? Yeah, I could agree with that. Again, they got a lot going on there.
They got some neat looking lore. And
it sounds like the story kind of writes itself interacting with them.
Plus, always cool to get some low-level Underdark shenanigans going on.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, what's next?
More Underdark shenanigans. Drow.
The Drow.
The Drow.
Oh, look at that
that
face.
Is a beautiful face, straight out of the 70s. The Drow, we're already looking at the highest AC of anybody so far is a 15, 13 HP, just like the Darrow, 14 dexterity. You'll notice a lot of these guys don't have above a 14 in any stat. Perception and have some stealth. They have 120 feet of dark vision, which, if you're fighting them in the dark, that's going to matter a lot for them. And you will be, because the Drow are almost always in the dark.
Definitely. I want to point out that Drow is a playable race for most campaigns. So this is kind of a stat block that you might see for a player if they were low level, correct?
Pretty close.
Because they would have that Fey ancestry as well as that innate spellcasting.
Yeah, this is
that's standard for everybody.
Yeah, this is basically just a low-level Drow. They have their innate spellcasting that Drow have, skills with charisma. It's a very low spell save DC, but Fairy Fire can come in pretty clutch, and Darkness is always good.
Definitely.
Sunlight sensitivity, but like I said with the last guys, it doesn't come up. They have a short sword, which does some okay damage, and they have that hand crossbow that has poison on it.
Definitely. And we also have the variant Drow magic, and that's, again, more for the playable character than...
No, this one's actually kind of interesting. I was reading it from... they talk about it a lot in Out of the Abyss, which is where I believe this comes from. It's so... It's so the DM can pump up the monsters without giving the players too many cool new shiny toys. It's basically magic armor and magic swords that stop working in the sunlight. That feels like a really cheap tactic to me, but hey, I mean, if you're that kind of DM, it's a good tactic.
Definitely, I understand that. Okay, so checking out their lore real quick.
They live in the Underdark. They like spiders and Lolth. They're a female-led society.
Yeah, they're matriarchal.
They have cutthroat politics. I mean, we'd be here all day if we talked about all of the, lore. We'd be, selling ourselves short if we didn't at least mention Drizzt Do'Urden.
You're not wrong there.
So, everybody knows Drow. I don't think we need to talk about this one too much.
Nope, and if not, go ahead and put it in the comments down below, and we'll make a video just on Drow alone, because it would take that long.
It would take that long.
However, running across a Drow, or running a Drow as, an enemy, hostile character, how do you feel?
As this particular Drow, he feels actually pretty strong. I can definitely see why he's not a CR 1/8. I can definitely see him being pretty spooky. He's got Fairy Fire as a backup option if he's just on the back line. He's got that really scary hand crossbow poison there. There's just a chance, like a DC 13 Constitution save isn't a lot, but if you roll a 1, you're unconscious in one hit. You could just get unlucky. Man, we're hitting high, but I'm going to call him a 7 as well.
A 7? Okay.
Yeah. We got some powerful boys today.
Yeah. I'm on the other end of this player tactic, but, or player appeal. He's really cool looking. He just doesn't hold anything special to me. Fighting a Drow just kind of feels like you're fighting anybody else that you run across the road that doesn't like you. Yeah,
you're probably right. I mean... Other than a little bit of innate spellcasting and that poison, he's not all that special.
Yeah, he's not really standing out too much for me. I'm going to have to give him, like, a 6.
As for lore?
Drow definitely have a lot of backstory there.
They do. I mean, it also depends on the world you're in. Like, yeah, if you're in Forgotten Realms, that's their lore. But, like, Exilia, our world, nothing like that at all.
You're not wrong, but you've managed to create quite a bit of lore for the Drow.
Yeah, they do still have quite a bit of lore, so
But let's draw this back to the guards. I mean, guards could have, all this lore as well, being in a country.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I'd be willing to go above 6. What do you think?
I'm thinking 5.
I think that's fair. I think we can call it a 5.
Just a 5 for having a lot of lore available, just not for this particular, Drow in particular. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if it was a named Drow, had... he could be cool, but there's nothing inherent, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure, we sound like we're going back on what we just said about how they do have a ton of lore, but I don't know what else to say about that.
You're not wrong.
I don't feel like this Drow in particular is going, I don't think your players are going to be looking at this Drow and go, wow, I wonder what his story was.
Right.
After they brutally murder him.
Great. No, compared to the Boggle, where the Boggle, what is that thing? Drow? Yeah, they're just gonna be like, somebody else that hates me. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Alright. So up next?
Up next is the Flying Shield.
I didn't know they made these. That's so cool.
Flying Shield does not have a lore tab. We're gonna point that out right now. However, it does have an AC of 17.
Oh my god.
And 17 hit points, and it flies. Well, hovers. 50 feet.
This guy's from Tales of the Yawning Portal. I've never read through this book, but...
Either way, I'm thinking Doc Strange Cape levels of magic here. This thing has immunity to poison and psychic, which I guess makes sense. It's a flying shield. Does really good with dex saving throws. Can't be blind, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, or poisoned, which makes sense because it's a flying shield.
Yeah, but have you noticed the thing that's missing from this monster?
The thing that's missing from this monster?
It doesn't have an attack.
It doesn't have an attack.
I love that. Oh, that's so cool.
So this thing literally is just a defending wall for something else.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else to talk before I can start gushing on DM tactics?
Please do.
Okay, so like we just saw, this guy has more AC and more health than anybody else we've talked about. Purely and like you said, all those immunities, purely offset by the fact he doesn't have an attack. So I immediately have thought of, you have a flying sword and a flying shield attack the party at the same time, and they just have that flying shield. The flying shield's just given the help action. So the shield is just bashing into the fighter, doing no damage, but he's distracting, so the sword gets advantage on the stab. That sounds so cool.
That is pretty cool, yeah.
It's a one-trick pony, though, so I can't rate it as high as I want to.
All by itself, no.
No, and like you just saw, it's impossible to use alone, and we've been trying to refer to just if they're alone. So I've got to give him a 5.
A 5?
Yeah,
okay.
And even that's kind of high again. For not having an attack, he's literally just sitting there. Yeah. You could do that with anybody. It just so happens this guy has a higher defense than anybody else at this level. But
you're not wrong. For player appeal, I love fighting a sword and shield.
I know, this is so funny.
I'm imagining a campaign where you're going through a magic castle and everything, is Fantasia animated. We got swords, we got knights. You can make an entire campaign, one-shot thing out of literally just all this false armor.
Also, you can't tell me the fighter isn't just trying to hold on to that.
Oh, yeah.
It can't attack you. So, he tries to strap it to his arm and is trying to float away with him. It'd be so much fun.
Yeah, and also, imagine how fast this thing is. It can move 50 feet.
Yeah.
It just flies at you. Also, false appearance, it looks like a normal shield if it's motionless.
Yeah, it's just
just sitting there. This is traps.
Yep. So,
I'm gonna have to give this, an 8. I want to fight this thing.
That's fair.
I know I'm trying to rate this all by itself. It's really hard because...
Well, okay, so this reminds me of Minecraft. I don't know if it's still this way. I know way back in the day, though, little baby slimes, the smallest size, couldn't actually damage you. They'd just bump you. So people would just have them follow them around. Yep.
I love that.
And that's what I imagine this guy. This guy, he's trying his best. He wants to kill you. He hates you.
Yeah.
But he just can't.
That's crazy, though. But anyway, so lore... We're going to have to go low on this one because, again, it's a shield, but it's a magic shield.
A 3?
I'm okay with 3 for magic shield.
Yeah. I wish this man was the best. I wish him the best. I love the shield.
You love the shield? That's pretty good.
Yep. Alright. Last one up is Giant Wolf Spider.
Giant wolf spider. So the giant wolf spider, first off, spiders, ew, gross.
Fair.
Second off, 13 AC, 11 hit points. So we're back down on that lower end of hard to hit. So if we had to rank this just based off of what we're seeing with AC and hit points here, the Drow is definitely the spookiest.
The Drow is by far the spookiest, other than obviously our man, Flying Shield.
Flying Shield.
But I believe this guy's pretty much tied with the Darrow.
Darrow, okay. Yeah. He does have a lot of stealth. He's very sneaky with that +7.
He's also the first guy to have a 16 in a stat.
Yeah, he's very dexterous and stealthy, and he does have blind sight, which is something the giant crab had.
Yeah, the Flying Shield had it too.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they only have it because they don't have eyeballs. Believe it or not, shields don't.
Got you. Yeah.
But
wasn't thinking of that.
So these guys have spider climb, so they can climb on ceilings without having to make a check. Web sense, so they know anybody else that's in contact with a web, and they ignore movement restrictions on webbing. So, of course, just like we were talking about how you're not going to fight a drow in the sunlight, you're not going to fight a spider without some kind of webbing, probably.
Right.
So if you just make the room have a lot of webbing out, he's going to be at an inherent advantage.
Right. I have a story for that in a little bit, but when we kind of get to lore. But just looking at this info, it just says he's a spider who hunts prey.
Yep.
Okay, so DM tactics, how do you feel?
Well, he also has poison. He only has +3 to hit. And he only does a d6 +1 damage, so his damage is pretty low. But then they have to make a Constitution saving throw. Also low still.
But not impossible.
Not impossible for somebody to fail. I mean, even fighters roll 1s. And then they take extra damage. And even if they save, they could take half damage. And if it knocks them out, they are stable, but poisoned for an hour, even after regaining hit points, and is paralyzed while poisoned this way. So kind of like Frodo from Lord of the Rings.
Ah, gotcha.
So this is actually pretty cool, because one, you don't have to worry about killing your players. They aren't potentially making death saves, so you can try to amp it up a little bit too high. And then even if everybody gets knocked unconscious and paralyzed, well, then again, just like Lord of the Rings, maybe the spiders wait too long. Maybe, somebody else shows up to help them, or they regain a hit point because the spiders didn't eat them quick enough, and they're like wrapped in webbing and they have to make their way out.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So I think that's cool, so that you can throw potentially more than you would normally and not have to worry about killing your whole party. And again, if you give them some webbing to work with, these guys can be a serious threat. Or they can climb on ceilings. There's a lot here. Honestly, for the level, I'd say these guys are the strongest yet, and I'm gonna give them an 8.
An 8? Okay. I'm gonna have to give my lowest score yet for player appeal. Ew, spiders.
I
have a funny story, though. One time, we were in a campaign. You weren't DMing.
Oh.
Yeah, you weren't DMing for once.
Yeah, that's rare.
This was outside of your realm, actually, before I knew you.
Oh.
And we were walking through a cave system. I believe it was run by goblins.
Classic.
Yes. And there was a room full of webs, and there was a giant spider. I believe a wolf spider, actually, in the corner.
I believe it.
And my sorcerer friend decided to do, what's the cantrip of fire?
Firebolt?
Yeah.
Yep.
Into the spider webs. Because she missed.
Yep. Oh, that's sad.
She missed and lit everybody on fire.
Yep. That's a classic. So,
I'm gonna have to give this a 4.
Yeah, that's fair. Nobody likes spiders.
No one likes spiders.
Even druids. This is the first beast we've talked about, and I was gonna mention, druids might like beasts, but, no, the druids aren't gonna like this one. So, for lore, it's a spider. What else do you want? It's a giant spider. They're in everything. They're literally in everything. 3?
3. Alright, so now that we've gone over all these, how do you feel? Do you think we had a good representation here today of CR14?
Other than we didn't get Goblin, which is eternally disappointing to me, I think we did pretty alright.
So, we went ahead and we scored all these up, and let's see how they rank. Number 5
is Giant Wolf Spider.
Ew, spiders. Good.
He got a solid 5, mostly because there's no lore, players don't want to see them, but they do have interesting mechanics for the DM to work with.
Oh yeah, definitely. Alright, number 4.
The Flying Shield.
Flying Shield ended up in number 4.
Yeah, he has no lore, and he doesn't have a whole lot of interesting tactics other than helping, but we loved him, so we had to give him some points.
Number 3.
We actually have a tie! Number 3 and number 2, you have a tie here.
Okay.
At the Drow and the Apprentice Wizard.
Okay, so let's talk about Drow first. Why do we think he's tied for third? Which one should be bumped up to number 2?
Well, if I had to make a gut decision between the two, gotta say I like the Apprentice Wizard a little better personally. But so for the Drow, it was just mostly a fact of they don't have a whole lot of inherent lore, and players might not inherently like talking to Drow.
So number 2 then is the Apprentice Wizard.
Yeah, they have a decent amount of interesting mechanics. Players like talking to them. They're humans, so that makes them, or well, they're whatever race is convenient at the time, so it always makes for a fun conversation.
So that brings us to number 1,
The Darrow.
The Darrow, number 1.
Can't believe we had the ugly thing win, but...
The ugly thing won. Yeah, that's definitely something very interesting and different. I haven't exactly seen or heard anything like that as of date.
No, yeah, they have enough interesting mechanics. Maybe not as interesting as a couple of the other ones on this list here, but they're cool, and you're gonna remember them.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, Darrow, congratulations. You're current top marks here, champion of the CR14. What are the odds? Do you think he's going to get dethroned by anything else on this list?
If we get Goblin, I will rate it a 10 out of 10. I promise. I will do it.
Maybe next time. Probably a while, though, because we're going to slowly work our way up the CR chain.
It's true.
But until then, this is Sam.
And this is Ham.
Thank you for watching.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.